The Treasurer Josh Frydenberg joins me now from Canberra. Thank you for being with us, Treasurer.
Nice to be with you, Leigh.
Is your March 29th budget next year going to be about starting to recover the nation's balance sheet and pay down debt, or are you going to be unable to resist taking the nation even further into debt because you'll want to splash cash around because you're heading into an election?
Well, the budget next year will be about locking in the recovery and also building for the future. Our first priority is to keep Australians safe from COVID. We're still in the middle of this pandemic, as we've seen with the new Omicron variant. It's also about creating more jobs. We've avoided the scarring of the labour market that was characteristic of the recessions in the 1980s and the 1990s. Indeed, we've got an opportunity now, Leigh, to drive unemployment to historically low levels, with the RBA expecting unemployment to have a 4 in it, to be sustainably in the 4s for only the second time in the last 50 years.
But on that point about unemployment and creating more jobs, you go and talk to anyone in hospitality or retail at the moment and they are really struggling to get workers. They actually can't get workers to fill existing jobs.
Workforce shortages are real. In fact, job ads are 30% higher today than they were going into the pandemic. More than 250,000 jobs
so what's the problem?
Are available. Well, one of the issues has been that our borders have been closed and a number of the workers in the hospitality sector, for example, are not available because of those closed borders. But we're investing in new skills. We've announced over 450,000 new job trainer places, 250,000 of them have already seen enrolments. We've got a record number of Australians, 217,000 in trade apprenticeships. That's the highest number since records began in 1963. So we're looking for opportunities to invest more in skills, while at the same time, in a COVID-safe way, we'll reopen those borders and bring in those skilled workers.
You said in your first answer that you're looking to lock in the recovery. Is that code for more fiscal stimulus, i.e. more spending, rather than starting to try to pull back spending?
Well, firstly, the emergency support that we've put in place during this pandemic has been wound down. And we got some criticism for that when we brought JobKeeper to an end after its 12-month period. And we also got criticism when we ended those COVID disaster payments and the business support payments once we reached those vaccination rates of 80%. We're now moving to the next phase of our economic recovery plan, and obviously tax relief's a part of that. Infrastructure spending is important. We've got more than 5,000 jobs being created by Snowy 2.0. We've got more than 10,000 jobs created by the Western Sydney Airport, more than 20,000 jobs created by the Inland Rail project. So what we're investing in is infrastructure, skills, providing tax relief.
Sorry to interrupt, anyone can spend money and invest. The challenge now, isn't it, for you to show your budget repair credentials and start trying to rein that in?
Well, firstly, we went into this pandemic having delivered the first balanced budget in 11 years, and we did that by having the lowest real growth in spending in some 50 years. Now, that was an achievement before the pandemic hit. The way to repair the budget from here is to strengthen the economy, and that is why investment in skills, business investment incentives are important, tax relief and infrastructure, the digital transformation, deregulation, and obviously energy investments are all important as part of that broader productivity mix. But I point out to you, Leigh, that we've actually seen an $80 billion improvement in the budget bottom line from what I forecast in the budget last October to what was the final budget outcome just as early as July. And the reason for that was more people in work and less people on welfare. So that is the secret source.
You mentioned, though, that the Omicron factor and how that can throw things. On this new variant, so far the evidence is that Omicron doesn't make people sicker, vaccines are still effective. What do we imagine that we are protecting people from at this stage by closing borders and imposing 14-day quarantines on some people in a nation that has around 90% of people over the age of 16 vaccinated?
Look, it was a prudent, sensible course of action based on the medical advice, as we needed to know more about this new variant, whether about its transmissibility, about its severity, and whether or not the vaccines that have been widely taken up across Australia are a real defence against this new variant. So that's what the 2-week pause is all about. We're looking to reopen those borders once we have the all clear from the health officials. We want to see the economy get back on its feet, and obviously we want to enjoy enjoy the freedoms that are now being enjoyed with the Delta lockdowns having come to an end.
Coalition MPs Christian Porter and Greg Hunt have announced that they'll not stand at the next election. In light of the Jenkins report this week outlining the need for political reform and a change in the way Parliament operates, should women be pre-selected in those two seats?
Well, I'll leave that to the local pre-selectors, but I can talk about my own state.
No, can I actually, let me just keep you on that point there, because you are one of the leaders of the party, and,
Sure.
and there needs to be leadership on this issue, as Kate Jenkins made clear.
Well, I understand that there are strong female candidates who may put their hands up in both seats, one of whom I know well in the Flinders electorate, but I'll leave announcements about Greg's future to Greg, and obviously Christian's made his announcement today, and I commend them both on their outstanding careers. But our focus is getting the best possible people, and there are more women who are coming to take winnable seats and indeed safe seats. And in my own state of Victoria, both in Dunkley and Corangamite, we've got outstanding female candidates.
I wanted to ask you about your colleague Bridget Archer, who crossed the floor last week to vote in favour of a federal ICAC. A photograph was taken of you with her, which she clarified later was you being very nice to her and inquiring after her welfare. But she also told the journalist Samantha Maiden that you then took her to the Prime Minister's office where she didn't want to go and that she felt ambushed by that. What's your side of that story? So she's gone back to your office and then what's happened?
Well, firstly, Bridget and I are good friends, and you're right, she did put out that tweet where it was very kind of her, and she thanked me for checking on her welfare. And we'd actually had dinner earlier that week with some fellow colleagues, and it was a big call for her to make on that particular matter. So I was indeed checking on her welfare. We went back to my office, and I thought that it was a good idea that we meet with the Prime Minister, just by the way, as the Prime Minister and I had met with our Senate colleagues who happened to be male.
So was that a spontaneous decision that you made when she was back in your office, or had you and the Prime Minister pre-planned that you were going to take her around there?
Well, as you know, in that Samantha Maiden article, it also pointed out that the Prime Minister was keen to catch up with Bridget. But it was my view, Leigh, that it would be a good idea after such a significant decision to have a conversation with the Prime Minister. Sorry
to interrupt, you didn't quite answer the question. Had you and the Prime Minister made that plan before you had Bridget Archer in your office, or did you spontaneously decide to take her around?
I did speak to the Prime Minister before. I obviously spoke to Bridget. And I can tell you, having been in that conversation with Bridget and the Prime Minister, it was I think, a very constructive discussion, and certainly I had the best of intentions to ensure that Bridget, the Prime Minister, and I, and in that case Maurice Payne, had an opportunity to discuss recent developments, because Bridget is not only a valued colleague and friend, but she's a very important part of the team, and she's discussing important issues to her electorate and indeed to the country.
Treasurer, thank you. We'll talk to you around the time of the mid-year economic forecast in December. Thank you.
I look forward to that.
Hi, I'm Leigh Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.